Okay, let's be real. Have you ever had one of those days? You know the one. You were busy, incredibly busy, from morning till night. But when your head finally hits the pillow, you feel like you got absolutely nothing done. Your whole day was just putting out fires, reacting to pings and alerts, and that one big, important thing you needed to do never even got touched. Well, you're not alone. And that feeling of being completely drowned and paralyzed by endless choices, that is not a personal failing. It is a system failure. Today, we are going to take a sledgehammer to that broken system with a framework called priority compression. It's a method designed to help you get your focus back and finally execute on what actually matters.
This right here, this is the core paradox we are all fighting against. It's like a law of physics for our focus. We've all been sold this myth, this lie of multitasking, the idea that the most effective people are the ones juggling the most plates. But the biological reality, it's the exact opposite. Every single time you add a new priority, you're not just adding to your to-do list, you are diluting the energy and focus you have for everything else until you're just left spinning your wheels. A whole lot of motion with zero forward momentum.
So what is this feeling? Well, it has a name, the hallucination of busy. And listen, it's called a hallucination for a reason, because that stress you feel, that sense of being completely underwater, it isn't actually about how much work you have. Not at all. It's a reflection of your approach to it. We have been trained, conditioned even, to believe that being responsive is the same thing as being productive. But this is a trap, and it's a trap that keeps so many smart, capable people stuck in the shallow end, mistaking all that frantic activity for real achievement.
I want you to let this reframe sink in for a second. The problem isn't that you have too much on your plate. The problem is your brain is trying to process all of it, all at once, at maximum speed, like a computer with way too many programs running. This is what we call a metabolic crisis. Your nervous system is basically simulating 30 different emergencies at the same time, and it's burning through all its available energy, its glucose, just trying to keep all those mental tabs open. It is completely unsustainable, and it always leads to a system crash.
So where does this overclock state come from? It comes from something called a biological hallucination. So your brain evolved for a much simpler world, a world of immediate physical threats. You know, a tiger in the grass. It literally cannot tell the difference between a genuinely critical deadline and some random low-priority email notification. To that ancient survival hardware in your skull, every ping, every buzz, every little red dot is a potential threat that demands a piece of your attention. It mistakes all that noise for a real signal, and in doing so, it keeps you locked in this constant state of low-grade panic and, you guessed it, paralysis.
So this leaves us with two paths, two very different ways to operate. Over on the left, you've got horizontal juggling. This is the default mode for most of us, right? Trying to manage 30 fires at once, treating every task like it's priority number one. This is where you mistake noise for signal and end up just suffocating in the shallow end of your work, always wishing you had more hours in the day. But on the right, we have the alternative, vertical compression. Now, this isn't about managing more. It's about doing less but better. It's about finding that one single domino that when you push it, knocks over all the others. It's about isolating the true signal by making the conscious decision to kill the noise.
Okay, so what actually happens inside your head when you're stuck in that horizontal juggling act for too long? You fall into what we call the urgency void. And you know this feeling. It's that classic brain fog. It's staring at your screen with a million things to do, but you're completely unable to start a single one of them. And I want to be really clear here. This is not some kind of psychological weakness. It's a predictable, biological shutdown sequence.
The state that comes right before that shutdown is called attentional thinning. Think of your focus like a beam of light. You can concentrate it into a powerful laser, right? Or you can diffuse it to just dimly light up a whole room. And this is the trap high performers fall into. They think their brain is so smart it can handle being diffused. They spread their attention across dozens of tasks, thinking they're on top of everything. But in reality, they're entering a state of what's called cognitive poverty. Their focus becomes so thin, so diluted, that it literally lacks the power to take any meaningful action on anything.
And that thinning, it inevitably leads to a complete system crash. It happens in a very predictable four-step sequence. First up, choice overload. Just too many urgent things screaming for your attention. Second, your brain's internal conflict detector, a little region called the Anterior Cingulate Cortex, or ACC. It senses something is very wrong. Its job is to spot conflicting signals, and when it sees 20 priorities all at war with each other, it flags a critical error. Third, it triggers what's known as a metabolic veto. It basically says, whoa, this is way too costly. The energy required to solve this mess is just too high.
And finally, step 4, system shutdown. The ACC effectively pulls the plug on your executive function to conserve fuel. And that is brain fog. It's not you being lazy, it's your brain's self-preservation kicking in. So we've diagnosed the problem, right? Our brains are just not built for infinite choice, and they will shut down to protect us. The solution, then, isn't to just push through the fog with more willpower. That never works. The solution is to eliminate the conflict that causes the fog in the first place. This is where we fire up the compression engine, a 3-part protocol designed specifically to manually flatten all that noise and bring back clarity.
Now, this isn't just another time management hack. This is a reality filtering system. Think of it like a RAM upgrade for your focus. It has 3 core layers. First, we have the Lead Domino sieve, which helps you find what truly matters. Second, hard cap priority gating to force ruthless surgical focus. And third, the binary deletion mandate to aggressively eliminate everything else. Together, these 3 form a powerful compression engine for your priorities.
All right, step 1, the Lead Domino sieve. This starts by changing the fundamental question you ask yourself every single morning. You have to stop asking, what's the most urgent fire to put out? And you start asking, what's foundational? You're hunting for that one single lead domino, the one task that, if you just knock it over, will create a massive chain reaction of progress. Finishing it will either make other things on your list totally irrelevant, or at the very least way easier to do. This is how you shift from the world of alerts to the world of impact.
Okay, step 2 is hard cap priority gating. Once you've found your lead domino, your job is to protect it at all costs. What does that mean? It means setting a non-negotiable, unshakable limit of exactly one primary task for your most valuable, focused block of time. You stop juggling and you start gating. All those other requests, emails, and shiny new ideas, they are not allowed in. This forces you to make a conscious choice. It forces you to choose deep, meaningful work over all those shallow, reactive tasks that feel productive but produce absolutely nothing of value.
And then we have the third, and maybe the most powerful step, the binary deletion mandate. This is the most aggressive part of the protocol, and it feels so good. You actively hunt down tasks that are trivial, things you can safely ignore for a day or two with zero consequence, and you kill them. You don't snooze them. You don't reschedule them. You make a binary choice. This does not get my attention. You hard delete them from your conscious mind, and in doing so, you free up an incredible amount of cognitive RAM for the one thing that actually matters.
Now, you might be listening to all this and thinking, okay, this sounds great in theory, but why does it actually work so well? Well, the power of this compression engine is rooted directly in the neurobiology of your brain. When you apply this protocol, you are fundamentally changing the chemical and metabolic environment inside your head to favor decisive action over anxious, paralyzing deliberation.
One of the biggest reasons is energy preservation. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the CEO of your brain, responsible for all your strategic thinking, it runs on glucose. It's a high-energy machine. When you're in a state of choice saturation, your brain just burns through that precious glucose trying to weigh all the conflicting options. It is metabolically exhausting. But when you apply priority compression, you radically lower the energy cost of thinking. You preserve that executive glucose, which can now be invested in actually doing the work, not just thinking about it.
So what this really means is that when you compress your priorities from, say, 20 down to just 1, you're performing an act of what we call neural desaturation. You are literally telling that conflict-detecting ACC in your brain, hey, stand down. There's no conflict here. The path forward is crystal clear. And that signal releases the metabolic veto. The system shutdown is called off. Your brain is no longer wasting fuel weighing 1,000,000 pings. It's concentrating all of that conserved power on executing the result.
The psychological shift that happens when you do this is profound. I mean, every time you kill a fake priority, every time you enforce your hard cap, you are building this internal identity of someone who is in control, someone who is decisive. This isn't just about getting more done. It's about completely transforming your relationship with your work. You are no longer a reactive slave to the notification. You become the proactive master of the move. Okay, theory is one thing, but action is everything. So how do you put this into practice like right now? We're going from the why to the how. With a super simple, concrete plan, you can use your very next morning to take back your focus and drive some serious impact. This is your first 90-minute lead domino block. Here's what that looks like. At 8 a.m., before you even think about checking email or Slack, you perform a compression audit. You look at your day and you ask that foundational question, what is the one thing that, if I get it done, makes today a win? By 8:15, you've identified that lead domino. Then, from 8:30 to 10, you execute a 90-minute non-negotiable focus block. Phone off, notifications off, door closed. Nothing else gets in. And after that block, at 10 a.m., you practice that final step, look at your inbox and enforce binary deletion. Actively ignore or delete at least 3 trivial things for the next couple of hours.
And this is so crucial. The objective here is not to cram more work into your day or to grind with more willpower. That's the old, broken model. The goal of priority compression is to reduce cognitive friction. It's about making the act of deciding what to do so simple, so light, that all of your energy can just flow directly into the work itself. The fog just dies, and you start moving with speed, not because you're pushing harder, but because there's nothing left to push against.
So as we wrap this up, let's distill this entire philosophy down to its absolute core. We've gone from the problem, that hallucination of busy and the biological shutdown it causes, all the way to the solution, a 3-part system for creating radical clarity. The final takeaway here is really about embracing a new way of operating, about moving from complexity to a powerful, focused pillar of action.
I want you to remember this. The modern world is constantly trying to convince you that success lies in managing more and more complexity. But complexity is a cage. It traps you in indecision, and it just drains your metabolic energy. True leverage, true power, is not about how much you can add to your plate, but how much you can subtract until only the essential remains. Compression is the key that unlocks that cage.
So here is your challenge. Don't wait for some perfect day to try this out. Take your hardest, most overwhelming day, the one that's staring you down right now, and I want you to perform a compression audit on it. Sift through all that noise, find the one lead domino, that single pillar of impact, and make the decision to kill everything else, just for a little while.
This is the mantra. This is your new operating system. Stop trying to manage the chaos. Stop juggling the fires. Instead, I want you to focus all of your energy on 2 simple actions. Kill the noise, find the pillar. Because I promise you, once you master the art of compression, your clarity will become an absolutely unstoppable force.